And we are recording. Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 166 of Tech for Tea. Today we have a very interesting guest. You may know of the work that he's done, but you may not know his name. Welcome to the show, Sick Codes. Just do a brief introduction, just to let people know what you do, because I'm sure they've heard about it.
Sure, man. Yeah, so I did the John Deere Doom jailbreak. It's a funny word to say, but yeah, the first ever jailbroken tractor. Ran the Doom on it. Ran Doom on it. The number one game, Turing complete. Had the works. That's the proof that you can run so and so on at YouTube while you're driving a tractor, or watch some other websites that I probably shouldn't mention. But yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff with a jailbroken tractor. Yeah.
This is such a ridiculous idea. But if you just think about it, so when you think about these computers built into all of these different hardware devices we have, it's sort of as this weird proprietary thing that just does, it's not something you're really going to be working on, but a lot of these systems are just running Linux behind the scenes. They're just running regular hardware. Like in this case, wasn't the device you have running an Intel Atom?
Yeah, I think this one is an Intel Atom. Let me check. It's right here. I've got it right here. So this is it right here. It says John Deere on it, I think. Does it?
Oh, I can't see it with your camera.
That's right. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So it's also got GPL stickers all over it. It's a real funny one here as well. I do not consent to search of this device. And you can imagine what happens when you go through TSA with that. I'm like, no, guys, you can open it up. It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing.
It does look a bit like a bomb, to be honest.
Yeah. Some guy was like, hey, you left your DVD at the TSA line, because he goes, you put your DVD player in there. I'm like, yeah, it's not a DVD player.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's a console, but it's not a DVD player. I treat it like it's a full-blown gaming console now. Stuck in the past. But yeah, you're right, absolutely right, man. Everything runs Linux, GNU/Linux.
Well, except for all the ones that were running Windows CE 6 or something.
Oh, yeah. CE 6. Windows CE 6. And they have one in between called VxWorks, but VxWorks, I think, is Linux anyway. So.
Yep.
But it's Wind River as well, and they have their own ID and everything. Obviously, Windows CE is completely proprietary. We both know that, right? It's just a different story with the other one, the one they've got now, the Wind River Linux one. And actually, they changed the name to Wind River recently. I don't know if that was 2-3 years ago or something. They changed it, maybe last year. But they definitely changed it. I think because they do a lot of things now. Maybe they do a lot of free RTOS, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, the company is called Wind River, but their page for Wind River Linux is still called Wind River Linux. So I guess it's sort of split into two separate things then, where you have the company
they also
and then
moved
the
a lot
product.
of their. That's it. Yeah. They also moved a ton of their documentation behind a login screen, which is really annoying. And I kept trying to send them an email to sign up. I'm like, you have to fill out a form to sign up, and I filled it out 4 times. And they just don't reply. I had one rep from
Wind
Australia
River's just not replying on that.
Yeah, it was a while back, but I've talked about them publicly now, and they probably know exactly who I am. And every time I try and sign up, they're like, probably not. It's not, and for good reason. I don't really need to be in there. I can find it on. They've got a Git project. They've got a build project for their GitHub. And John Deere, obviously, I think there was a slide I had at DEF CON about, the Qt project.
Yeah.
Back when they did some sort of change to a proprietary style model, or they did some sort of license change, there was a mailing list I found, and I had it at DEF CON, the slides, about John Deere being one of the reasons that Qt actually went private, per se, because they actually wrote in the mailing list to set up all their little tractor animations. They wanted 3D something or other in Qt. Yeah. Qt 3D or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I'm like, oh my gosh, John Deere's the reason why Qt went private. And what do I mean by went private? I'm talking about IG profiles or Twitter profiles, but I'm talking about licenses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just been a wild ride since DEF CON. Obviously, the SFC recently published that story about, I saw your video. That's how I reached out to you. And I've watched the videos before, obviously. And there's a lot of great Aussie guys out there, another guy, EVlog.
Oh, yeah, EVlog, yeah.
Yeah, Brackus Creations as well. Brackus Creations, he's one of my, he's the the Aussie version of Lewis Rossman.
Yeah.
He's like a legend. Yeah, he's a legend. So older dude, fixes MacBooks, like ancient Macs in his garage. Is legend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a mad dog. He has really good videos, really good tutorial videos. I actually learned a lot of my soldering techniques from him. So, but yeah, man, it was like just modifying the John Deere tractor, made it go extremely viral. And, you know, I didn't expect it was going to go viral, but it did. And there's a lot of ramifications since then. So a lot of security stuff as well that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people have been, you know, I've seen one company, like all the other companies, by the way, I've just got this little STM32 in my hand. Yeah, all the other companies in the industry, they don't really have cyber teams. And then after those talks that I did at DEF CON, they started to like ramp up their cyber. And like one example is Trimble, for example. I spoke to them the year before, and there was one guy there. He's a nice guy. He actually went to DEF CON too, and he was a good guy. And then the next year I spoke to him, and he's like, only recently, and he's like, dude, everything's totally different now. I've got a whole team now. It's like the agri-tech sector, security sector's like exploded, man. It's been wild.
Well, I knew that obviously I knew there was a lot of tech behind, like, you know, modern agriculture. I didn't know that before, like, you were, you know, bringing this stuff up. Like, so they just weren't caring about security? What were they doing before?
I think it wasn't a priority. And I can see in there, they've got like reports. They've got like, I don't know if they're annual reports or something for shareholders, whatever it is, it's public. And I was reading through it, and, you know, Control F, the word cyber, and I didn't see it. And then in the recent one that they just released, there's like, yeah, there's plenty of them. They've mentioned it a lot of times, and they've got a lot of posts now. And they do that really annoying thing where you publish an article and you don't put the date on it. It's so annoying, man, when you see that. And then you got to like view source, and it's like, you know. And anyway, so like they've got a lot of articles now about cyber. They've got a bug bounty program, and I was the first person in that program, actually. I left it. That's another story, but yeah. Because they didn't have bounties, but they do now. But that's in the private program that I'm not supposed to talk about. But I know it's there because they told me.
Yeah, you know a lot of things you're not supposed to know about.
Yeah, a ton of stuff. Yeah, I'll tell you a funny thing though. With the so when I asked them for the source code is a big thing, right? So the source code. If you want to get into that,
sure, we can get into that. Yeah.
So John Deere's obviously got that recent thing with the SFC. Asking John Deere for the source code.
Yes.
So I'd previously asked a year before, along with a number of other people, and they said they would send out a USB eventually. They're like, "Oh, we'll send you out a USB." There's a bit of a backstory there, but it's probably not. We won't talk about it right now. But there was they sent out a USB stick, and because I didn't want to give them my address or my name, date of birth, and all that crap, they said, I thought to myself, who should I send it to? I'm thinking, who's the best person to send it to? And I'm like, okay. Let me email RMS. Let me email Richard Stallman. So I emailed him, and I'm like, hey, we were talking for a bit actually previously. But I think I got looped into a conversation about source code and John Deere from someone else. I think Kevin Kenny, mad dog as well, good guy, farmer out of Nebraska, does a lot of stuff for Right to Repair. And eventually, Richard was like, yeah, I'll put you on my buddy. And then Devin Ulibarri, who's actually at the FSF now. He wasn't at the FSF at the time. He was just a friend of Richard's, I believe. Or like they were colleagues or something. And then he's like, send it to Devin. So I sent it to Devin. Devin uploaded it to FTP or MacLeod for me, and I got it from them. So if you think about it, it's full circle, because John Deere, the whole GPL thing, I'm asking them to produce source code for me, corresponding full corresponding source code or complete corresponding source code. And they send it to the FSF, all things.
So from my understanding, what was sent, if going by your previous talks, that was the wine patches you got? Or was that something else?
Yeah, that's right. Correct. Yeah. There was a bunch of wine patches, some like documentation. I think there were cherry-picked wine patches too. I went through it the other day, and I was like, yeah, these aren't the ortho, the patch, right? It's got the ortho. And I was like, these definitely aren't by Deere, because it doesn't have their copyright stuff. And they will let you know when it's copyrighted. They'll put the big headers on it. They'll put like headers on it. I think we were talking about the other day where like when you put they have one piece of code in there where it's just exit one with the header on top and the header underneath.
Yeah, and during your DEF CON talk or FSF talk, there was the one with LD config as well, where they had this giant line of documentation explaining LD config as well.
Yeah, just in case you don't have the manuals in there. But I think they have manuals on the device, I think, I don't know if they have it, but they have a ton of stuff they probably shouldn't have had in production. But but then again, there's another answer for that is like, it's probably good to have it there because people like me can go and modify it, and maybe, as I was saying in the free software talk that I was doing the other day, that, John Deere may well be the leaders of open source. They're just unaware of their status of that symbol. So. But we have a good relationship, John Deere and I. Like not John himself, because I don't think he's real, but I don't even know if he's a real person, but he probably was. But they're pretty friendly. I mean, they're on a mission. They've got the same issues like corporate structure stuff, but they've got to deal with legacy business models, I guess. And it's all farming as it is kind of like a legacy industry. Yeah, although it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere.
He actually was a real dude. He founded a company. It was called John Deere.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Deere, yeah. Well, it must be real.
From 1804 to 1886. American blacksmith and manufacturer.
Jeez, you lived for a long time while he's at,
yeah,
in the 1800s,
at that time, yeah,
years.
for sure. 82 years,
Jesus. Baller, dude. Yeah, all the wines. What do they call them? Concubines. There's another word for it. There's another word for it. Wenches. That's the one. Back in the 1800s, man, crazy, wild stuff. I couldn't even imagine what was going on back then. But yeah, dude, it was like it's an interesting company. They've got a lot of responsibility now. They've got their own data center. They run the food supply chain. And
I don't think people realize like how important like John Deere specifically is to this, especially in like the US.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Even in India, they have same tractors, but they have, because a tractor is it's just an engine on wheels. That's all. Like you go look at the old ones, it's for like a big V8 block, not V8, like V12 or Cummins engines or some crazy stuff that I don't know because I'm not a diesel technician. But shout out to the diesel techs out there. But they just put the engine on wheels, and that's all it is. And now it's like an engine on wheels with telematics, telemetry, and all this crap. But some people want that stuff, like I was talking about in the talk. Some people want to get tracked and monitored and spied on. If that's what might sound like those loaded phrases, but people want their agronomic data to be accessible on their phone, on the app. I want to get on the app, mate. Like that.
Well, one thing you did point out that I think is really important is that there are a lot of people that are going to work on these farms who don't want to be dealing with that stuff. They want someone else to manage, like remoting into the machine, managing all that data, and then it just working. Like, they're obviously going to be the ones who do want to do everything themselves, but I don't think it's a problem that John Deere provides that as a service. The problem is that it's the only option they had for a while.
Yeah, well, they do have the option of like, you can simply take the telematics gateway, which is about this big, and I should have one around here somewhere. It's up to there. The telematics gateway, I've got 4 of them, believe it or not. 4 of them, all secondhand from eBay. Comes with all the customers' data from the previous, because you can't really, they don't have any scripts there to wipe stuff properly. But the data is like, I forgot what I was going to say, but it's like you just take the SIM card out. Sorry, you take the SIM card out.
No, what I meant is like remoting to the machine to update and things like that as well. Like that's something that there are going to be people that want to do that themselves, but also if John Deere wants to provide that as a service, like that's having that as a dealer service is a good thing. It's just not a good thing when that's the only thing that you can do.
I think the problem is that they built their licensing structure because they have a substantial amount of additional software that costs. It's not cheap. Like I think for a license of 5 years, which I believe is in violation of the GPL, because you're not supposed to be able to run subscriptions and then rescind this subscription and then make the device stop working. And that's debatable. It still works, but maybe it doesn't do the right thing, right? But they. Or maybe it's a license to their server. I don't know what it could be some sort of nuance there that I'm not aware of because I haven't paid them for that. So, but you can definitely, if you're in the device, you can navigate like with with SQLite, go and flip some numbers to 1 from 0, and then activate things that you haven't paid for allegedly. I haven't tested it, but in Minecraft, I think it's possible. But you mean like the example is like. They've got all this stuff in there that they probably didn't think through, that someone comes along, I put Doom on it. Clearly I can go in and do stuff that I shouldn't be able to do that they don't. Well, that's debatable as well. I want to be able to do it and I should be allowed to do it. But, is it their fault for putting it on the tractor and leaving it there in plain sight, and unencrypted? Or is it my fault for, it's a bit of a conundrum there where that's where the GPL thing gets a bit murky as well, because there's all sorts of different, it's a wild, it's a bit of a wild situation at the moment.
When we're talking about
I'm
the
not sure how it's going
subscription,
to pan out.
when we're talking about the subscriptions, is it the current model that's just so when did the lifetime purchase disappear? Like, because you mentioned
I
that some of the
believe,
older
yeah.
models supported that.
By the way, this is my tea because the M1 Harsips, M150s.
Yeah, I'm not drinking tea. I've got some -196s.
Is that like Solo? Is
So
Solo still around?
this is a shochu and vodka.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's drink. Okay, right.
Yeah. It's lemon, shochu, and vodka.
Yeah, we have soju here as well. Because I'm in Thailand, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yeah. You asked me about what'd you ask me? You asked me something about the subscriptions. Okay,
Yeah.
I think previously there was an older model which was like a I don't know if you remember class pad calculators, we had class pads, touchscreen ones, black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I think people ran Doom on those as well. But those those calculators, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what John Deere, not Casio, I believe. Maybe it was Casio, but I'll have to ask my buddy Alex, who's a legend. He's a tech guy as well. Well, he does John Deere stuff, but I won't talk about it because he doesn't want me to dox him. Shout out, brother. He's taught me a lot. And there's a couple of Brazilians that are really smart too that have taught me a lot as well because they do a shitload of repairs, as you can imagine. Because I had the problem with the John Deere dealership. The find your dealer ability of John Deere. There are no dealers in Thailand, and I've got the device. How do I fix it? Got to go to dealer. Took dealership owners dealership. I just became the dealer. I think that was how I explained it. But yeah, so the prices and the stuff is wild. Like $8,000 for a subscription for I think 5 years, and that's a subscription on the 4240 and 4640, which is like the Wind River one.
Yep.
Prior to that was like the 2630. This is just model numbers. 2630 was a Windows CE one, and then prior to that was the VXWorks one. And prior to that was Windows CE again. So I think they flip-flop back. I'm not sure why, but yeah, the latest one coming out, I believe, is lifetime subscription. So I think they maybe they've encountered some consultants in licenses because but they can't also devalue products that they've already sold because farmers will get absolutely they'll do a riot. They'll do a big riot where they drive down the road. Which has a massive impact.
The nitrogen protest that happened.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's so funny. The nitrogen protest. I don't really understand. I think I was watching that global. There's climate change. Sorry. The thing about the nitrogen stuff. It's they want to tax fertilizer or bring out non-natural fertilizers or something. And I'm like, I think I remember I spoke to a guy from Pakistan on the plane a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him the question. I was like, didn't you guys ban inorganic fertilizers? And I'm like, or something like so there's a word for it, right? Some guy from Pakistan, he's like, yeah. And eventually what happened was all the farmers revolted they ended actually had to import $400 million of rice in 1 year into Pakistan because because the administration there took away their cheap fertilizer, made them buy expensive fertilizer, allegedly. And they ended up raiding his palace, and he left. He got kicked out, dude.
Yeah, don't piss off the farmers.
Yeah, exactly, dude. He literally got kicked out because of it. And I asked the guy. I don't know if it was the direct cause, but I asked the guy. He's like, "Yeah, I was there, bro." He went in. And I was like, "Oh shit!" And I was like, "What was it about?" And he said that was the main thing. The fertilizer. They had to import $400 million of rice to a country that's generating rice prolifically. And then they flipped it back. They changed the law back. And they wanted to do that in Belgium. And if anyone, who's listening is well aware of the fertilizer industry, I believe it has elements of, there's prices involved and there's supply and demand and, what's the De Beers diamond thing? They artificially raise values of things like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that goes on there. I think Cargill was one of the companies previously, Cargill Foods or something, 50 years ago, got in trouble or some staff for trading corn futures. And they enacted an act because they were using not stolen data. Sorry, they're using customer data to trade onion futures. And they got caught. Yeah, and they banned or something like that. I don't know what happened to it, but you can imagine the valuable, because obviously grain like sorghum, barley, wheat, rice, cotton, whatever. It's all traded. on the exchange boards. And if you can tell what the price is going to be before it pops up, you can you can put, it's like better than the horse races. It's crazy.
But when you were saying before about devaluing their own products, like you'd shown prices. Was it the Libre Planet or was the other one? We showed the prices.
I think I showed the prices. Yeah, I think I showed the prices both. I think zoomed in, and I think I think it's Precision Sloan Instruments has the price list. I can look it up, but
the lifetime subscription one had like a way higher price than the yearly one, which is probably what's going to happen again. Like these current ones are going to like plummet in value. Still $4,000, but like less than like anything comes after it with a lifetime.
Right. I mean, there in terms of like the actual ability of the PC, because it's technically a computer. It's a computer. Everyone knows it. I know it. They know it. They might bag it out and say like, oh, it's just a computer, bro. I'm like, yeah, well, I seriously invaded it, and obviously I wasn't supposed to be in there, according to them. But yeah, it's like the prices are absurd for the value that you get. Is probably, and I say the value is probably infinite. Like, I mean, once you get I've got the prices here. Where is it? I don't know where it is, but yeah, some of the prices are exorbitant. I don't know where it is, but yeah. That's the missile stuff. Yeah, I don't know the prices.
Oh yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they claim that it's in the Airbus. It probably is like some component of it, right? F-13s, F-22s, F-18s. F-35s, Stinger missiles. That's my Javelin missiles. Remember Call of Duty? We get the Javelin glitch. And you go around and just like blow everyone up. I was a prolific abuser of that glitch. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, they think they've changed it on the latest version where it's a lifetime update, a lifetime subscription. I believe that some of the previous models had it. I don't know because I never paid for one. But there is the ability to pay for it if you want to get the official version from John Deere.
If you wanted to pay for it, like what would the process be? Because you don't have like a dealer that you bought the device from. Assuming you had the rest of the tractor, let's just assume that. If you bought a second-hand tractor, like on like just from some other farmer, what would be the process to actually like get that in their system?
This is actually interesting because recently, first of all, you have to go to the dealership or bring up the dealer. You bring up the dealer, and what happens on the device is there's a menu on the device where you have like a challenge code, and you go in there, you get the challenge code, and I think you read it out to the dealer, or you might already know it, because you can do offline installs, and that's what I knew. When you do offline installs, that's when you know that you can do it offline. You can hack it without it, because you don't have the internet to do it. They can't see me doing it. But yeah, like they have a challenge code, and I believe that you send it because I found it on. I went on a Facebook group, I think, and there was a guys posting their challenge codes and their serial numbers willy nilly because they were having problems updating or whatever. And I went in and like took a couple of photos just to figure out what's going on. And the challenge code, you read it off, and they read you back like a license code. You enter it in, and then it's activated. So you can either you ring them and you ask them. You can ring any dealership, I believe. Some dealerships have access to it. And, they'll want the serial number and the challenge code, I believe. But there's definitely, I know that the 2630, one of the older models now, the Windows CE one that's end of life since November last year, I believe, and no future updates. I believe they've stopped issuing licenses for that, which is where it gets in a little bit of awkward territory because that means that literally, what's the word for it? We talked about it the other day. Obsoleting. Yeah. Yep. They planned obsolescence. Yeah, they're getting rid of the device.
When were those devices on the market?
They've been on the market for like, I think, 10 years, obviously. 10 years or more, I think, yeah. They still sell for like $8,000. Crazy prices. And they have all the unlocks. And I believe some people have reverse engineered it, but the unlocks are definitely there. And once you unlock it, I don't know if it's lifetime on the 2630, but there's probably John Deere people out there that will 100% know, but they definitely are getting rid of subscriptions for some of them, which is annoying because you buy something for a certain value and you want it to list, and it works, and it still works, and it's going to continue to work, and you accept the risk that it's not going to be updated. It might be like a 15th of it might be such a small residual risk that you don't have to worry about it anymore. Maybe you don't even care if someone just like hacks into it. On a single basis because it's a distributed industry. Like it's not like centralized. Like a power grid, you hack into the central bloody coal plant, blow it up.
Yeah.
Everyone's screwed.
Oh yeah.
A farm,
But
you have one farmer. Yeah.
It's more like when you have like, you know, a networked printer that happens to be out on the open web and then someone prints something to it. But a lot more money attached to it than just a printer.
Right, exactly. I think the worst thing that could possibly happen in John Deere is if there was a world war and they were going to use nuclear bombs and they had the ability to trade that. Instead of doing that, they could just brick everyone's tractors. You know, like there's so many different things you could do.
Well, there was that story that you mentioned that you know that John Deere says that didn't happen with the Ukraine tractor.
Oh yeah. There's this weird story that came out on CNN, which is no, we're talking about that. It's a CNN John Deere tractor story, and it goes on about I don't know if it's legitimate or not, but I do know that I asked John Deere about it. There's a story about apparently some tractors got stolen from a part of Ukraine, and they were taken or driven away or taken on a train, I believe, or something like that. It's according to the story from my memory. And they took it to Russia at some place, and then they turned them back on and they wouldn't work. And I'm like, thinking to myself, okay, if I figure out that, maybe that, like, it doesn't really make sense to me because, like, one, that means they're still connected to the network, which they could be because they might actually have the SIM card and they forgot to take it out. Because the SIM card thing's like under the seat. It's like literally you have to deconstruct it. And if they don't know what they're stealing, if they don't know what the loot is before they open the chest or the crate to figure out what's in there, it's like they don't know that there's a still SIM card literally tracking it the whole way there. And when it got there, allegedly, they were bricked. And that could absolutely happen, which is also funny because that story, maybe it might be a feel-good story for the time being, but it actually backfired because then people were like, hang on, what the fuck? What's JD doing in my why are they able to brick my tractor? And like, do you want a company to have that much control over your device? I'm sure Apple can do it. Apple can brick everyone's devices in a day.
Well, yeah, they could just push out an update that, you know, bricks devices.
And even if it's not an update, they could still, like if they took down apple.com, cut down on the apps, like there's so many different things that go wrong. Do you really own the device? And then you get to that whole argument. And I think, you know, in my opinion, it's complicated, man. It's really complicated. It's hard to figure out where the line is of like, what's actually okay or what's not okay. And there's definitely things that you can just easily tick off, like the subscription thing, clearly in violation of the GPL. They maybe rescinded it in the new version. Probably can't do it in the old one because they'll probably have an uproar or a class action lawsuit maybe. That might happen. I don't know. But yeah, this subscription stuff is definitely an issue. We both know that in any version of the GPL, it's not on. But you know, then I was reading Richard's book the other day, or his book. I got him to sign it. I bought it at the FSF conference, Liberate Planet, which is awesome. Shout out to the organizers, by the way. It was actually really good. Like everyone had what are they called? T400s, the ThinkPads. It was wild, dude. Wow, all with the free boot. I met the dude who owns what's the Triskel one? What's the OS? The Debian Triskel? Is that right?
It's not Triskel, something like that. I don't actually know how to say the name. Triskel. That's something like that.
Yeah, I met him. Nice guy. He's got a pretty cool mission. They're all using that there. They're all using that fully free. In fact, I presented on that. That's the background. The background on that when I switched monitors on the stage, there was a Triskel. That was a cool talk, and I there was a couple of ones. Another one from Erin Rose Glass, I think, and she had a really cool talk about learning management systems. You know, like I don't know if did you ever use Turnitin, like the application?
Yeah.
You go to uni or you turn it in.
Oh, it's fucking awful. I hate it.
So apparently, a lot of that stuff's being used for like tracking of students. It's been sold 3 or 4 times, and you can imagine the plethora of data that would have had since we originally used it. You know, I used 10 years ago when I was at uni. I can only imagine the amount of data they've got, given that they actually submit essays in the app and they check for plagiarism. Well, they were on the ball back then.
It's gotten really weird with the plagiarism checks as well, with with ChatGPT and all of that. Like, there are people that are getting hit up for plagiarism with something that is not even remote. Like, it's been like, this is AI generated, and it's like, you know, an excerpt from the Declaration of Independence. It's like, no, like, what are you saying? Like, these systems are very imperfect, and the problem you have with them is when you have teachers that are taking them at face value rather than using them as like a a guidepost to, you know, sort of see what's happening.
Absolutely. And I think there's definitely like, you can tell ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 3, 3.5, you can tell it, you know, make this real. If you use the API, you can turn down you can turn up the randomness, or like I don't know what it's called. There's a function for it, but it's like you turn it up like I can't remember what it's called, the spread pretty much. And it makes it like very, very unique. And not in terms of like, you know, like speeding articles unique. It turns it into like a, you know, never before seen article. And it's pretty bloody hard to see if it's, I mean, I can personally tell now from reading a lot of ChatGPT 3, the fast one, the cheap one, the free one, I believe, you can definitely tell when something's been like spat out with that. But 4 is a lot more complex. And it's, I've been using AutoGPT recently. I don't know if you've seen that one. Have you seen that?
I've heard about it. I've not looked into it myself.
It got 100,000 stars on GitHub in like a week and a half.
Jeez.
100,000 stars on GitHub. That's logged in GitHub users. And I think GitHub has public metrics, so you can probably go to Insights tab and then see. It's absurd. What's that? It should be over 100 now. I was at 99 yesterday, I think.
102,000.
Yeah, it's actually legitimately insane. It's basically just like, you can imagine like ChatGPT, you send it data, send it back, right? And you just, if you want to automate that, it's just the API key that circulates it, right? And by the way, that's 100,000 people that like it. You also have to have an API key, which means you have to have a paid account. So that's 100,000 people probably with paid accounts. It's absolutely, legitimately insane. And I used it the other day. It's pretty fun, man. You set it goals and it just like rolls around and like just automatically does stuff for you. And I think it's pretty good. And I think there's something missing from it. I want a fully auto one, like an agent one, and just be like, figure out how to do this. And then bang, you know, like write me a Ghidra plugin to rename all the functions like this. And then just say that, let it run. And then 40 minutes later, it comes back with the full code, you know. Because you can imagine like and that's when it gets wild. Like, we're getting into a wild situation here. And I'm using it a lot, dude. I'm using it a lot. Like I'm using it to write, you know, Arduino code. I'm using it like, just write me a CAN bus emulator right now, bang, and it just does it like that. Write me like a GUI for it. Give me like a terminal, like an interactive part that goes right W and change the speed of the clock, all this crap. It's phenomenal, dude. Especially for like maker stuff like Arduinos, whatever. It's legitimately insane. I mean, it's good for everything, you know.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are sort of, you know, what's the word for it?
Underusing it?
No, not underusing it. What's the word?
Underestimating it?
There we go. Underestimating it, because right now it's still a little bit scuffed. It's like, you know, not perfect in every situation, but just keep in mind where we were like 6 months ago and where we are now. Or like,
do you remember the DALL-E photos?
Yeah, just compare. Compare. AI art is the most obvious one. Like, compare the early AI art with what we have now. It's night and day. Like, some of the stuff we're seeing now, it's gotten like almost to the point where you can't tell the difference. It's still a little bit, you know, there's certain situation where you can tell, and certain art styles. Basically anything that isn't an attractive woman, you can kind of tell, because that's the part where it's gotten really good, for obvious reasons. But in those situations, it's gotten really good, really good. And I don't know where we're gonna be, you know, 6 months, a year from now, and I don't know what that means for, you know, whether that's things that are heavily text reliant, with like, you know, programming, things like that, what's going to mean for like artwork or anything else like that. I don't know. I would be worried if I was someone, you know, that was working in that field and wasn't taking this seriously. Like, this is not something where this is not like the invention of a car where we're just like, you know, people that are driving horse and carriage, they just become taxi drivers now. Like, that's not what this is. This is something different.
Right. Exactly, right. I think if you think about like what it can do, like say you're a copywriter, you design menus, you write, you know, you explain, you know, like you go on an airplane or a restaurant, it's like, you know, the exquisite, you know, plum sauce, whatever, they can just be generated like that. You don't need a marketing team to do that. Yeah, I think the model's there, and I think we're underestimating the amount of text that you need to send it to get a really, really good response. And people send like generally between 20 words, like, blah, 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 this, or what color is red, stuff like that, right? And then you think about it, it's like, oh, wow, it knows our colors, It's like, if you delve down into it, I think someone leaked some of the prompts that they give to the actual bot. And it's like essays, almost like, you're not allowed to talk about adult stuff, you're not allowed to talk about this or that or whatever. And I think that's obviously problematic, but that's another story for another day. And I think that's what happened with didn't Stable Diffusion. So I think DALL-E failed because Stable Diffusion, not only do they do adult, or they do like stuff that DALL-E won't do, but it's also self-hosted, isn't it?
Yes.
Self-run, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I remember doing it because I got my NVIDIA somewhere. I do remember trying it out. I tried Rock M, doesn't work. It didn't work for me. But I will give it another shot. You know what's funny? It didn't work. I bought this new sound blaster the other day. Like it's like a Mad Dog sound blaster.
Why did you buy that?
AE9. It was like $400. It's got like a little. Dude, it's lit, right? It's lit.
I've not seen anyone buy a sound card in like 10 years. I didn't know there was still a thing.
So, because like for mixing headphones, right? You need
that's fair.
If they're high resistance ones, like 200 ohms or something.
Right, that's fair.
Sometimes you might need these. So I bought this to do it, and then chuck it in. What do you reckon? There's no fucking drivers. And then I go on GitHub and I'm looking at some dude's project, and it's like the AE7. Wait 2 or 3 years after the project comes out to do it. I tried to do it. I tried to figure it out. It's definitely doable. There was like a project for it. It was like a dumps. You can modify some sort of whatever on it, but yeah, pretty annoying. But understandable given that it's brand new and whatever.
Because you're an Arch user. You mentioned one of your talks you were using Arch. I don't know if that's still the case.
Yeah, I'm on Arch. Yeah, on Arch. Yeah. And you can imagine.
Yeah.
It's a bit DIY, but you know as well as I do that, like going through the Arch experience, as I like to call it, is like you literally went like starting from I think Debian in like 2011 or something. Started with Debian, Ubuntu, then I went to Debian, and then eventually I just randomly went to Arch. I think when something died on Ubuntu for me, or didn't work, and then I found it quite from coming from Ubuntu, was like, yeah, can install it, right? And then the install now is really weird. It doesn't really make sense now. But the install when I did it back then, it was logical. It was like, there's a file, readme.txt, blah blah blah, it goes in. But since then, dude, like leveling up in terms of like, manage some packages now and all this crap, like it's just a different level now. Like you get your skill goes like, I think that's what I find anyway. Like if you switch to Linux, you will literally it's like throwing yourself in the deep end, but it's definitely absolutely worth it.
When
VM's not the same.
When I switched to Linux, I just jumped straight to Arch. I didn't do anything else. So
oh really?
And this was a horrible idea. I don't recommend this. I did it at the start of a semester for uni, so I had to get things working very quickly.
But it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend that approach. I'd recommend try Ubuntu, try Pop! OS, try something where there's a nice installer, and then break things when you're not in semester. Luckily, there's a start. So first 3 weeks are like doesn't matter.
What did you study? Computer science?
Yeah, software engineering.
Oh, nice.
And now I make YouTube videos, so I'm using my degree real well.
Yeah, but about computers.
That's the justification I use. My parents asked me when I'm getting a job.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I think I'll show you some cool stuff. Man. I've been hacking this recently. Got Dodge Ram. Been hacking that recently as well. Got some cool bugs on that one that haven't really. Oh yeah, I was going to show you this. Yeah, this is my box opener. That's my mail opener. It's a big time machete.
Yeah.
Big time machete. It's really sharp. Really sharp.
That is really cool. It's not going too well for you, is it?
Yeah, it's going. It's pretty sharp. Like it's sharp.
Oh, jeez. Okay, yeah.
It's really heavy too. It's like, as you can tell, it's like hand forged. Like that's I don't know what that is. Like the cold rolling steel. Covered in Vaseline the other day. I was reading about Vaseline, and you're just like supposed to Vaseline it. I don't know. Oh, I'll show you an example. Here we go. Wait. Anyway, we'll stop doing that. That's my machete. It's a self-defense weapon because Thailand's a little bit rough. So that's video. But yeah, like that's just been hacking around. I think at the moment at John Deere, think I'm just going to not let them off the hook, but I think they've got this issue to worry about with the license stuff that probably won't. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think it's going to be big, especially with the right to repair law passing in, I think, Colorado, was it? Colorado recently passed one.
I've not been paying super close attention.
Lewis Rossman, who's also a top G, he's been talking about it heaps as well.
Let's see. Colorado right to repair. Colorado approves first ever agricultural right to repair bill. Yes.
Oh, it's true. It's actually about agricultural. Yeah.
That's what I think it's titling it as. I don't. Oh no, Reuters also use the same thing. So I guess that must be what it is.
Also, shout out to Kyle from iFixit. He's a mad dog too. Kyle is a really nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth Chamberlain, who's on the sustainability part of it, she did a talk at FSF as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a panel. There was also a panel shortly after. I don't know if you saw it on the site. There was a panel with all four of us.
No, I missed the panel.
Kevin. Yeah. It's just like it's under. And actually, Richard's at the panel.
Ah.
Yeah, Richard's in the audience. He asked a couple of questions. Actually, I'll go watch that after this, but it's pretty funny. And he fully interjects multiple times. It's good. It's gold. I think Paul was like, he said open source, and then there was a bit of a there was a stoppage in the talk shortly, but it's pretty good, man. Like, so it's cool to see somebody stick to their guns for so long, and I obviously, like the software, and that's I judge people on their merits roughly. Yeah, as we should, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
what else did you have in mind, man? Did you want to bring up anything else?
I did want to get into the how the John Deere jailbreak actually happened, what you did to actually get there.
Yeah, so I initially started by I always pull apart devices and just inspect them and figure out what chips they've got on the board. I'll go and look up the chips that are on the board and figure out what they do, whether it's an amplifier or a Wi-Fi chip, or it's some sort of TPM or some weird chip or module. With John Deere, I ended up getting this socket. They had a BGA 100 chip, which is a 100 balls socket. 100 ball chip that stored about 32 gigs, I think, or 8 gigs or something like that of the entire OS.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a flat MBR, the GPT with a small partition for the bootloader and all this stuff. And basically, I'm like, oh, I kind of recognize this. It's straight up Linux, right? So, I mounted it. I started editing it, and a lot of troubles happened. I think the first fail that I had was it reboots. When they have this shitty code in there that it counts every time it reboots up by 1, and if you reboot it 10 times, it doesn't boot anymore.
Yeah, it takes you to that.
It's so bizarre.
That system error screen or whatever it was.
Yes, yeah, there's weird system error, and then to bypass that, a guy in Brazil showed me, but you have to have the USB with the John Deere repo as a USB. They have the USB set up, but it has to be signed though, GPG key sign. And the repo has to be in the USB, and then you put a text file in there called dealerauth.txt with a capital A, camel case, right? Yeah. And
is that a blank text file? Just
correct. Yeah, it's like a marker. That's exactly right. That's the kind of things. But if you think about it, it's quite easy for them to be just make a file called dealerauth.txt. But it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre to think about that I joked that said that they didn't know their code well enough to add a proper, catch or error or fail system there for certain features. Instead, they decided to lock them out to come and inspect it, which I think is bizarre. But it actually worked out okay, because after I fixed all that, I got in and I ended up, I think I modified that file, made it read only or something. Something happened to it, and it stopped happening now. And actually now, because I've got some extra commands on the system, I can actually run a command they put in there called reset boot count. They have a binary in there that just resets it for you. So
I presume, with a regular boot, that would just be run, so it doesn't, brick itself at some point. You would, restart the system over and over again as you're doing things.
Right.
So with a proper boot, it's running that at some point to make sure it doesn't cause that to happen.
I think they do it like that, or they do it some other way. But I definitely know that when I run it, because I can plug in a keyboard and mouse now, KVM, I got the whole works now. I plug it in, and in a mouse and everything, it's wild. And I also get a terminal, which I added. By the way, I added the terminal I tried a lot of things first. I think the first thing I tried was, obviously, with the system, some part of it's going to be signed or checksummed, and you can see it's going to go through a check to figure out whether or not files have been modified before it boots.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in, I'm like, okay, the first thing I want to do is change the boot count, which didn't work, by the way, when I changed the boot count manually because it was checksummed in some way or form. And I couldn't be bothered working out that arrangement of that brain fart, as I like to call it, of the developer that designed that system.
Mhm.
So instead I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I figure out whichever way I get in. So I looked at the UDEV rules and maybe some whitelisted devices. Maybe there's some like USB sticks or network devices. And there's some TP-Link USB sticks that work and you can get in wirelessly. But the problem with that is I didn't want to connect to it wirelessly because I didn't want it to go call Deere and then they get my IP address and they come and hack me, you know. They've asked me for the name before and I said, nope. Well, that's, the same with when I said the USB to Richard, right? Or Devin. Like they also added, I think I tried to change the FS tab in, /etc FS tab and change the read it as the RO, no A time, all this stuff. And I changed it to read write. Didn't boot. And then I think the way I got in, I just added a cron job. There was like a little cron job in a, cron.de folder. There was like not daily. It wasn't like @daily or anything. It was like some random one, like logrotate.cron. So custom. It looked like I don't think that's custom as well, but there was a file there, logrotate.cron. I went in, just added my own one underneath of it, where I just pop up an Xterm emulator every minute. And then as soon as I booted it, I'd actually done some other modifications where I tried to put SDL libraries in there, which you need to run Doom. You need like libSDL. And it was kind of fucking annoying because obviously Wind River doesn't release Doom for
I'm not
device.
Crazy. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, so I ended up getting Doom. I think I got it from Mage OS. I think it's called Mage OS or something. I got Chocolate Doom for Mage OS. It's like a Red Hat one. I think it's Dead Project. Or it might have been Fedora, ARM v7, HL. I don't know which it was. Whichever one it was, Bash didn't run, but I just copied Bash from the actual existing OS into this little. I made a little CH root. Like I added like the essentials to get it to run in there, and I think I got it to mounts the rest of the disk. And then because I think they had a problem with running Doom, right? So to get SDL, and there was another one in there, libSDL and something other. But I couldn't. I tried to preload it, but I think glibc or something was not the right version, and you can't do that. You have to run it through. Someone was like, "Yeah, do it through CH root. It's the easiest way to do it." So I did that, and then eventually I got Chocolate Doom running on it. But I wanted to get GZ Doom running on it, and GZ Doom is a lot more graphics intense, and this doesn't have a really good GPU on it. Obviously, it's not like a 4090 or something.
It's just got to show these little, 3D tractors. That's all it needs to do. Doesn't need that much.
Yes, and I think it's CPU made tractors, like QT license stuff. But anyway, I think I got that. I basically just got it running on Chocolate Doom, and I had a really good mod where you would do the mowing on the tractor, and it would. Yeah, but I stole that. I borrowed it from another user called Skelligant in New Zealand, who is a Doom modder, and they had a really good mod with like a mowing one. It was like Lawn of the Dead. It was called Lawn of the Dead, and you like mow around.
I feel like I heard about that one already.
Lawn of the Dead. So that's like the original one. So so I went in and changed it. So I put corn and I put like a whole bunch of other stuff on it, and then I got into the GZoom Discord and DM'd Skelligant, and she's like, I'm like, is this okay? And it wasn't okay because I put in dogs and cows and sheep, and you could mow them over and like cause all sorts of gore. And someone was like, that's so inappropriate. And I'm like, I didn't realize it was that bad. I don't know. I'm not a farmer, so I don't know that it's not okay to. Obviously they go to the slaughterhouse eventually, but yeah, I didn't know it was wrong. So we ended up changing it. She changed it for me. All the sprites from the one that I had in GZ Doom, modified it to Chocolate Doom, so it's really basic. So you can skip the whole level. You just run straight to the exit. But you can mow around now. It's just like a skin change. You change the icons, change the sprites, and yeah, it worked. It was wild. It worked. And then I'm playing John Deere Doom Edition, not John Deere Doom Edition, Corn Edition Doom or whatever on the John Deere tractor. At DEF CON in front of 2,000 people, 70,000 views on YouTube, whatever. And then John, it was wild, dude, wild. Yeah, that's it. John Deere, obviously, I surprised the heck out. I didn't tell him anything prior. I didn't tell him anything. I said there's gonna be a surprise at DEF CON, and blew him away. And I think I was just saying the other day, I was like, they should consider putting Doom stock in the next edition of tractors. Just to be like, we were always going to add Doom to our tractors. Like, it's not a big deal. We're always going to do that. It's not even a big deal.
If they had a sense of humor, that's definitely that would definitely be what they do. One thing you brought up with the dealer.txt file,
Mhm.
there is. I can understand why that was the simple method they did. Looking at the way that ISP companies work, so in Australia, sometimes the government will be like, "Hey, block these torrenting sites, block this site, block that site." What they do is DNS block because
Yeah.
they assume that nobody is going to actually go and change their DNS to something else. So, from John Deere's perspective, they're assuming that nobody is going to go out of their way to know, oh, you need to make this text file, and then you can just circumvent all their things. Like with gaming, for example, they're going to have these fancy DRM systems because people are well known to be trying to crack games and get into playing them. But,
Absolutely.
you were saying before that these companies didn't have like massive security teams anyway. They just didn't think it was a thing that needed to be worried about. So they took the easiest possible approach because that's just, the cheaper way to do it. That would be my assumption, at least.
Totally, man. And they were also unaware that I would have the capability to extract the firmware from the device without some sort of like trick, you know what I mean? Like they didn't expect that people would generate, I've got like a socket. This is a socket for a different chip, but it's like a TSOP 48. This is like the typical one you find like a USB stick. It's like a long one. That's why USB stick is kind of long. And you just chuck it in there and then basically plug it into a socket reader and it will just, you can mount the disc, you can mount the disc like it's a USB stick. And having that capability to modify the OS, unless it's an encrypted device, which you can also get, by the way, if it's encrypted, because but that's a bit more complex. You got to turn it on, debug it, or like get some sort of control over it, and then while it's booting or whatever, you can steal the key somehow. So it's definitely possible, and we've done it recently for that car that I showed you. So you can decrypt updates of some sort. But a guy in Latvia helped me with that. Nice dude. It's when you're funny when you think about it, because like I did all this from Thailand. Obviously I'm Australian as well, like yourself, but like I did this from Thailand. Some people do it from like Latvia and all this stuff. Like John Deere making a tractor in Des Moines, Iowa, or East Moline. Oh, it's raining. Imagine making one of those tractors and then being like, this is one day going to end up in the hands of a random hacker in Thailand who's going to run the game Doom from 1993 or 1994 on the tractor. It's such a bizarre concept. Yeah, it's really raining. It might actually accidentally drop out. I don't think it will, but it might accidentally drop out.
We'll approach that if it happens.
Yeah, it floods downstairs. It's pretty funny. Well, it's not funny for me because I'm upstairs, but I mean, it's the other way around. But yeah, it's just one of those things.
So,
what else did you have a question about?
What sort of response did John Deere have from your DEF CON talk when you just it just appeared out of nowhere to them?
The first time I got on their radar, I believe I emailed 2-3 years ago. I emailed them an API support at Deere.com. That was their security email address at the time, as far as I know. They didn't have a bug bounty. They didn't have a cyber page on their website. They'll say like that's wrong or something. He's falsifying it, but they definitely didn't. Because I would have found it and emailed him there, right? And I sent him an email, and guy got back to me. Nice guy. He works somewhere else now, I believe, but he was a nice guy. He's like, we worked it out for a couple of weeks. It took about a month. I think we resolved it. The original bug that I found 2 years ago was I could submit the VIN number. Like I signed up as a developer. I could submit the VIN number to add the machine to my account.
Right.
And it would say, this machine's already taken, understandably. However, in the response was the JSON response had like address line 1, address line 2, customer's first name, customer last name, phone number, who owns the tractor, where is it, all this data that's allegedly, according to them, it's not PII, it's maybe just PI. I don't know what they've got this weird thing there. It's like, it's not sensitive information, personal sensitive, I don't know. But anyway, I told them, I'm like, this is pretty cool, got this access here, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, that's obviously not supposed to be like that. Maybe it is. I think some guys DM'd me, they're like, I don't know, it's a different story, but they ended up fixing that. Subsequently after that, a whole bunch of other people, I joined up with a bunch of other hackers, nice guys, and a couple of girls, and we hacked them, got in their mainframe and everything. And there was about 10 of us, I think. Not smoked them, sorry. We stole their single sign-on keys from Okta, through a 0-day that one of the guys had. What's his name? Regex, yeah, nice guy. And then another buddy, we had a lot of fun. Worma, John, Kelly, Ashish, and Wabafet. Yeah, all these crazy hackers, right? We had a good time. We just like got in there, smoked them. And since then, someone else, another crew, Sam Curry and a couple of guys, Brett Burhouse, I think, they've gone in as well and smoked them. And this is so funny because they got paid for it, right? So they were in the private program. I think they got like over 6 figures from JD from this. I'm thinking, well, so for me, I actually published it publicly. Where they're not allowed to because they did the NDA inside of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, like, do you want the clout? Not necessarily clout, but do you want to change the entire cyber industry? That's what I did because like they didn't have a bug bounty before that. So just submitting it to them and like doing it publicly literally changed the entire.
Did they have a method to submit bugs? You just send it to their. Was it just like email them? There's no bug bounty.
No, they created a HackerOne program. Yeah, HackerOne, you go in and you submit the bug to them, and it says like that's their central place where they do bugs. It's bug bounty program.
No, before they had the bug bounty, what was the method then?
Nothing. Yeah,
there was nothing. Okay,
nothing. Just email, nothing. So I emailed them. I heard after that they originally had plans to implement a security program, and they're like, yeah, we have one already in the works. I'm like, yeah, well, I expedited the heck out of it. It's not really. It's like it happened real quick, but they did get it done. And, kudos to them for getting it done because they've got like a couple hundred bugs resolved now. They have a private program. They have a public program. It was private when I joined. And the reason why I didn't send the bug through the private program was because there was no money. They don't, that usually when you do like a private program, you have money, right? Like they pay you for the bugs. Whereas this one was like private and you don't get paid. It's like, what the heck's the point of that?
You're a good Samaritan?
I think yeah, exactly. It's like, and then they were saying something to the effect of, you'll join John Deere's global mission to help secure our food supply. I'm like, I'm not part of your fucking mission. I'm on my own mission, mate. I'm doing my own thing. And,
yeah.
And the good part is, since then, all the other companies in the industry, Case, Class, Bayer, Monsanto, all the other companies, right? What else is there? Agco, huge companies, billions and billions of dollars of ag tech. They're all focusing on ag security because of all that. I brought it to the light. They thanked me personally. Like someone, they go, "Oh, thanks for bringing that up," because now I can go to my director or my CEO and be like, look what this dude did to John Deere.
Yeah, thanks for doing that to John Deere and not us, so we can deal with this before you come to us.
Correct. Yeah, it's a weird situation, but it definitely improved it. And I had I think like CISA, Central Intelligence, I don't know what is Central Infrastructure Security Agency. They very receptive of it as well. They actually had to reach out to them to help John Deere to fix it originally because I don't think they need him anymore because it's sort of like they weren't ready for what I was about to do. So, but it definitely shaped the company. They do a lot of stuff now that's related to cyber. And I think recently they just I'm not a fanboy yet, but they just recently released a data tool that had apparently in the past had been a subject to a big part of the right to repair was you had to get this dealer tool to access it, but now you can actually buy it from John Deere. It's a bit expensive, but it's allegedly for sale to John Deere, and you can actually interface with the computer and do sorts of diagnostic stuff with that.
That was the electronic data tool or data link or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, electronic data link tool on the John Deere shopping website, I believe. There's something on there on the website. It says something like it's not for sale at the moment, or like it's due to chip shortage. I'm like, chip shortage 2 fucking years ago. Get with the program. Put your orders in early.
So that's a separate thing from JD Link, yes.
So JD Link is a device. It's also Wind River, and it's a separate device that goes under the chair, and then this is the screen, but they interface with each other.
Right. Okay.
Over automotive Ethernet connection, automotive Ethernet. And they all talk to each other and they could all control each other. So updates happen through the gateway, which has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all these other connections. And that's how the updates get through with the SIM card as well. It's got a SIM card and satellite as well. It's got everything, right? GPS as well. It's got, and radio. I forgot. Yeah, it just keeps going on. So that gateway receives any information and then goes through to the display, and then the display can also talk back to it and vice versa. And they both talk to the machine through CAN bus. And the funny thing is, now that I've got access to the display, I can actually type out CAN bus messages in the terminal, which is cool. So I can do a lot of stuff with the tractor. I mean, if I was a malicious person, I could tell it I could turn the tractor off. I could drive it left. You know, there's a lot of things you could do. I don't know what the most dangerous thing you could do in a tractor would be, but probably something that involves speed and.
They have auto drive, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
that's a thing called auto track subscription. By the way, it needs a subscription. By the way, yeah. So auto track goes in a straight line, and it's pretty accurate, right? It's accurate with radio. It makes it within a centimeter, I believe, and without radio, it's within like a couple of feet, which is actually not useful because you can't do crops in a straight line. I think Australia has this issue previously where we can't or couldn't, or previously, but I don't know if it's now, but row crops, which is like when you would do them in, just rows. Like it's not exactly perfect because we don't have RTK radio. There are newer signals coming out like L1, L2. I don't know if it's in Australia, but they're way accurate. And people can do also something called NTRIP, which is it's just literally like NTRIP casting. I think it's just basically Wi-Fi based time. It's like date. Just like it's because all GPS is time based, right? They just send the brick signal down, and the time difference is how they correct the signal. That's all it is, based on how far away you are, I believe, from the satellite. And that's they correct the signal, and then they get it straight, right? With the new stuff, you don't need the satellite anymore. You do it on your phone, I believe, with some of the Wi-Fi. But then the problem is in Australia, we don't have reception out there, so it's hard to do that as well. So people are doing their own thing when they get their own base station. They have like an open WRT, but probably is. They have like a little base station, and it emits radio waves, and then you correct off that, and you just put it in the same spot every year. As long as the land doesn't move. As long as the land doesn't move, you'll be okay. But yeah, that's some of the networking basis of it. But you don't need all that. I mean, if you really want, you can do it by hand, but it's obviously not for massive farm operations. It's not obviously practical.
Yeah.
And some of them are very extremely profitable. Like I think cotton is a really big industry, cotton and sugar. Don't know about sugar, but we have a lot of sugar in Queensland, right? And a lot of cotton, I believe. Don't know. There's a lot of cotton in Australia, I believe. But it's super. These are like $1 million machines. And I think John Deere has a patent on the cotton baler. They're insane machines. If you look it up, it's like it gets the cotton and then bales it into these massive bales. And they're absolutely insane. I think they're like incredibly expensive and also incredibly innovative when you think about it. You probably see the YouTube videos like from Weld documentaries. Like they do like these German ones like, welcome to the mega machine. It's like really cool documentaries like this is the Mercedes-Benz factory in Burnhouse or something like that. Those documentaries, there's a really good one about ag. It's like mega machines, ag. It's excellent. And actually, the best way to learn about ag is Farming Simulator. Farming Simulator.
You did mention this in one of your talks.
Dude, incredibly accurate. I literally had no idea. And I think there's a new one coming out. I think it's coming out in May. It's Farming Simulator for Mobile 2023. Giants. It's a really popular game. If you look at Steam charts or something, it's a popular game.
Right now.
It's a popular game.
2022. Steam charts.
2023, I think. It's
2022 is 20% off right now.
Yeah, there's a mobile one coming out. Giants. I think it's coming out in May or something.
Currently has 16,000 players online.
It's quite a few when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. For a simulator game for farming, for sure.
Yeah, it's so accurate though. When you it's actually super accurate. They put all the machines there. They license it properly. It's all accurate. It's actually literally, it's super accurate. It teaches you about the crop types and like fertilizers and things like that. And it was honestly, that's how I learned a lot of stuff. Literally, just doing that, like grain cart speed and things like that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a funny game.
I know that in some of the older games, the physics was a little bit off in some places. So if you want to go to a hill at a little bit too much speed, you might just whoo.
Yeah, I think the latest ones. I think it's Unreal Engine. I think it feels like Unreal Engine, I believe. But I was playing on the mobile. It was even funnier on the mobile, just like running on the mobile. But yeah, it's super. It teaches you like not realistically crop price, but it's pretty interesting how much money they make based on like the land size and things like that. But yeah, dude, I literally knew nothing about farming before I did all this, which is really funny. Like, I didn't even know there was internet in farming. Like, I thought it was, people just drive.
Yeah, I was gonna
tractor,
ask you what you knew about it before all this John Deere stuff happened.
Dude, I didn't even know what a combine was compared to a tractor. I didn't even know. I said to a guy, like, I saw a combine, and I had a guy called Willie, nice guy. We had a little falling out, but he's a nice guy. I spoke to him, and I said something like, "Look at this massive tractor." He's like, "That's a combine, bro." And it was a massive combine. So how does this? I'm drinking Red Bull in Thailand, right? In Thailand, but it's imported from Austria. How weird's that? Oh, these are the original Thai. This is the original Thai. Look, there. Check that out. You can't even read it. Oh, that's in English, but
that's fine.
You can't read that, right? It's fully Thai.
Yeah, no, I got no idea. I just see squiggles.
Yeah. Me neither. I just drink it. Open it with my machete, chop the top off it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had just no knowledge of this. It's just like, why did you? Actually, what caught the interest of with doing something with John Deere then? Like, how did that even?
Okay, so there was a couple of events that happened for this to happen. There was one guy, Ben from New South Wales, nice guy, mad dog. He one day we were chatting online on Twitter or something. We reached out and we talked about Green Star, which is the networking stuff, satellite stuff. And apparently, he mentioned to me some sort of thing about they were using HTTP 10 years ago as opposed to like HTTPS, and
lovely.
Thinking about farm data and not espionage, things like that. You can spy on data that comes out, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, look, considering the username and the password were in the, they were just doing basic auth, that doesn't surprise me at all.
It's going to be there for a while too, that repo, because if they get rid of that update repo, it's if you think about it, if you think about this GPL stuff that we're talking about, right? Those packages are currently publicly available, right? So it's debatable whether they are violating it or not. Maybe they have to produce source and some of the code that they've got in those packages, but that's, I'm not the person that goes in and figures that out. But there's definitely they're publicly available, so it can easily be reverse engineered anyway. Any binaries, most of it's in plain text anyway. These are a lot of shell scripts, Python scripts, things like that. Although they compile to Python, which you can easily decompile. Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
But yeah, I think that was one event, and the second event was a guy called Paul Roberts, who's a big right repair guy from security. He runs Security Ledgers, like a blog. Paul Roberts. He also runs Secure Repairs, and he's on the repair board, I think, or something like that. But anyway, he one day reached out and just said, like, "Hey, dude, it's really weird. John Deere has no CVEs. What the hell?" I'm like, I took the bait, right? I took the bait, and I was like, I went and have a look at their website, and ended up finding that VIN number bug, trivial bugs, right? And then the rest is history, man. Next level, I got the team. We're hacking it with a bunch of other guys. Yeah. And then eventually, it did the John Deere thing. So it's been like 2.5 years, I think. I've seen John Deere kind of evolve. I know a lot about their company now, obviously. And I've been to not Des Moines. I've been to Betterdorf, Iowa. I had a corn conference called CornCon. Like DEF CON, but CornCon. And yeah, CornCon was pretty funny. John Johnson runs that. John Johnson, funny guy. He's actually ex-John Deere security team. Okay. So he was like, come and talk for us. I did talk there. John Deere was also there. There's two people at John Deere that I talk to a lot. I think it's John, Carl, Amelia, and I forgot the other guy's name, but he's Dave Bailey. That's I said his last name. No, Dave's a mad dog. Shout out to Dave. He's on. They're really smart people at Deere. Yeah. G'day, Dave. But they watch all the stuff that I do as well, by the way. So they like the shout outs. They appreciate it. And they always DM me after, like, hey, thanks for the shout out, man. John Johnson's a nice guy too. They got a new business information security officer. Carl recently got what's the word for it? Promoted. So nice work, Carl. Congrats, mate. He's deputy CISO now. So, but these guys are pretty smart. I mean, they were helping me. I was like, I had a 1-to-1 with them. Like some of these bugs obviously have impacts on the real world. It's not all fun and games with Doom, but we both know this, right? It was fun for me, but for some farmers out there, they can obviously, maybe John Deere has other plans for some. It's a complicated industry with a lot of, I wouldn't say corruption, but it's a word that's similar to that. But it's not necessarily corrupt, but it's just more legacy business models. there's a lot of I'll scratch your back, or like, say if you have a tractor from one company and you go to get it repaired and they don't like you, they're gonna be like, go to the other dealership. There's a lot of that complex stuff. Because obviously it's male dominated and it's a very decision based, logical, not necessarily perfect, not logical like that. I mean, like they didactic. They'll say, if it's not exactly like it was last year, I'm not fucking touching it. Mm-hmm. Don't bring that stuff into my farm because it's going to screw up the farming season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just the way the industry is. Like, I can't change it. It's just the way the industry was built. And it's a lot. If you zoom in on Google Maps, you'll see just literally farms everywhere. Like 20% of the US is farms. I believe more than that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. India's 50%, I believe, agricultural land. Right. So if you piss them off, farmers, it ends in tears. Like with the they removed the Pakistani guy. They had the Belgian one recently. I don't know what the result is, but
I believe they reverted the pushing forward the nitrogen restrictions. I want to say that. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong.
And there's one in the Netherlands too, I believe. And what's interesting, right, if you think about it, a lot of the farmers are connected in ways that maybe the public can't. They don't use like chat room. A lot of them use WhatsApp. Right? They do a lot of WhatsApp, TikTok as well, some of them. Mm-hmm. And they usually meet in the comments section, right? That's where they all meet. IG, Facebook, they'll meet in the comments section. So like, that's literally, it's like content goes up, maybe the daughter or the sons or whatever finds it, or the wife, and it ends up in this. Sorry, man, someone calling you. Ends up in this. Is my do not disturb? My do not disturb.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, ends up in this way where they just meet in the comment section, and eventually it works out that they organize things like big riots. Like there's one in Netherlands, farmer riot, not riot. Farmers, that was last year, but yeah, it gets into intense situations, and most of it's about policies from people that don't understand farming, that have never worked on a farm, such as myself.
I got confused with two things. It was the Dutch one where they were cutting restrictions that got overturned. Not the Belgian one. Before someone corrects me on that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because they actually created like a party, and I don't like a political party. I don't think they have I don't know how their parliament works, but they've got like a massive amount of seats that they won. What is it?
It's about nitrogen emissions.
And
some of it,
they got 20% of the vote. Jesus.
What, like a Greens?
Like their political, the Farmers Protest Party, they got 20% of the vote in the recent election.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they have
the pro-farming crew.
They're like, they set up a party just like to advocate for farmers.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Oh wow, it's Ukrainian grain. Wow, interesting. Big, yeah. 10 days ago, tens of thousands of Indian farmers they're having massive impact because, you remember, without trucks, Australia stops.
Yeah.
It's like, without farming, people don't eat. And there's this thing about farming. It's where, like, I used to say, like, someone told me about it, but we're 3 meals away from World War III. Like, if you go hungry for one day, people start looting, they go rioting, like it's one day, 1 day of food, and it's next level.
Well, you don't even need food for people to start rioting. Just look at the start of COVID with toilet paper. Like people,
right?
Like that's just that by itself should give you an indication of how quickly in like a crisis people are going to turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you think about what you do with tractors, it will be slower to onset. But if you bricked 300,000 John Deere connected tractors and then screwed up an entire
I'd say you could swear it here if you want to. I don't really care.
Yeah. Like screwed up an entire season of harvesting. It would be like, next level. And I think that's why at the time when I started the John Deere stuff, it was like kind of weird to see John Deere had no security things. Not knock on wood. They had internal teams, but
sure.
as time goes on, everyone's taking it a bit more seriously. There's an CC, Precision Ag Task Force, which is a little bit different. It's more about signals, like about L1, L5, all these civilian and defense-related signals and things like that, and moving away from the older ones, which are unencrypted, I believe, or something or other, and or slower or expensive, etc. Or satellites aren't good enough because they've been up there for like 40 years. But the new ones, the new stuff that's coming out, obviously has to be seriously protected. AI farming coming out. John Deere's producing AI tractors. I think some of the other ones are as well. I met a guy from Bear Flag too. Bear Flag Robotic. It's a company that John Deere bought for like $250 million. They're building they built like a shell that goes on the top of the tractor and steers it automatically around the corners.
John Deere reveals
without any driver.
Fully autonomous
there's
tractor.
2 of them. Yeah, there's a green one where it's like it looks like just like a dog, like a mound. That one there is in-house, I believe, and that's just like an engine on wheels, right? Without the seat. That's all it is, right? It's just a heavy engine on wheels. It's massive, by the way. Is it electric? I think it might want to be electric.
Yes, I believe so. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's probably just like a proof of concept, or like they'll do that and then they'll get R&D stuff involved, and then they'll actually come out with a product, which is pretty cool. But the previous one, they've got Bear Flag Robotics, which is a additional, no, there's a word for it. It's a add-on for the current existing tractor force. But they just put a shell on the top, and has a bunch of sensors, right? Like a Tesla, like it's just got a shitload of sensors. And when you think about it, this is really interesting industry because it's similar to automotive, right? Tractors are similar to automotive. They're also similar to mining equipment, like big cat trucks, Caterpillar trucks that hold 500 tons. Not that much, but there's also like diggers and equipment like that, like earthworks and construction and forestry. They're all really, really similar industries, but they've got different threat models. Like there's one, like if you have I suppose we've got Rob Labby I think it is, from the mining ISAC, and Shireen or Cheryl, I can't remember her name. Cheryl, nice girl. She's also Australian because obviously BHP built it, and Australia's big on mining. Massive on mining. So there's a mining ISAC, which is a information security exchange center where they send they talk about security behind closed doors so the companies know what's going on in the industry, specifically to that industry. There's one for mining, there's one for a couple of industries, right? There's one for auto, there's not one for ag yet. I proposed it to a couple of ag companies, but they're just waiting for John Deere's assistance on that one. But they need it because then they can talk amongst each other and be like, these are the threats we're facing. Because in a mining situation, how do you stop an autonomous 100-ton mining truck that's 40 meters tall? You can't stop it. You're going to wait till it runs out of fuel. Whereas a tractor, you can run up to it and pull like a hose out or something, because they're only going 4 k's an hour. And whereas automotive, you can't. There's significant risk. There's all these cars around you in automotive. Whereas in farming, there's no cars around you, and you're in a barren field, and there's just one person. But you've got a chainsaw at the front of your tractor as well. There's all these different threat models as well. It's kind of interesting when you think about it.
I would like to hear from some farmers what they think about the fully autonomous tractors, because if we just look at the general consumer vehicles with the automated Teslas, a lot of people are very wary about that, and that's just something that you're personally using. If it's something attached to your entire livelihood, I don't know what sort of if that's something that actually does appeal to them, how much data they would need to have knowing that it works consistently for them to want to employ it, or what would need to happen for them to actually want to go and use something like that?
Right. As far as I know, it dropped out a little bit. The internet dropped out a little bit, but for farming, the autonomy part, you still have to monitor it. You know what I mean? It's just like handling, same as a robotic arm at a Mercedes factory. You still have to monitor it, and I think it obviously frees up the farmers' time as well. They have a lot more time to do other stuff like manage the farm or things like that. But there's also the other part of it, do you really own the farm? Are people just it's gonna be all centralized? There's a lot of fleets now where the people they're getting older or they don't have time to manage their farm, so they just let someone else farm the field. I think the other half of the question dropped off because the internet went a bit sus for a sec. I was saying,
because you've brought up before that farmers like things to be they don't want things to get in the way of farming season. They want things to be consistent and they know it works. I don't know what sort of state these devices would need to be in for them to actually trust it with, just even if they are monitoring it, just having something that's doing the work for them?
I think it's going to be years away. It's going to be. I do believe I heard a whiff of something about NVIDIA and John Deere. I think I heard it internally. Can't confirm or deny that, but I do. I heard it from them. I think
NVIDIA is big on AI right now, so that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, they've got hot GPUs. AMD does too as well, by the way. They're getting pretty close, aren't they?
They've at least done stuff publicly. The AI tractor that was using NVIDIA stuff, so there's at least that they've talked about publicly. So
they definitely get. But if you think about the model that you need to run a tractor, right? The AI involved in a tractor is pretty rudimentary, right? Only obstacles, you're not looking out for humans. You're just looking out for like goats, and, like,
get out of the way,
fences and stuff. The problem that they would have is there's not like the amount of tractors to get the data to run it is significantly limited, and I do believe that's where some of the issues with the data that they're getting from customers may be used to run the AI to sell back to them. So, like, surveillance tools. I don't know what the situation is there. I haven't read the terms enough. Well, I haven't signed the terms ever. But yeah, they've stuff. Obviously, having the ability to run like a tractor is completely different to a car. Like I was saying before.
Yeah.
Autonomous tractor. They're already walking a straight line. Doing the corners is what you turn the wheel. Like it's probably the same thing every time. You just calculate the distance. But they are doing it with AI, I believe. And I think it's coming out. It's going to happen no matter what.
Sure,
so, yeah. I think maybe 6 years, 5 years, maybe a bit shorter than that. Because I don't think at the moment, I don't think that they can run it at the moment with the current hardware and the current not the current hardware, but the computer hardware in the tractor. That's not AI ready. They have to have another one that comes and does it.
Right, but that's
maybe the new one's got 50 years in it.
But that's for like the top tier farms that can afford the really expensive equipment. It would be, like 10, 15 or so years after that for like the smaller farms that buy the secondhand equipment to actually start adopting it.
Yeah, and that's what I explained in the talk as well about the fleets that pass down the generational device. That's why everyone's got this end of life device, is because the previous generation had it when it was in life. And so that's why I jailbroke the 4240, the latest one, because I know that even though it's cheaper right now because people prefer the old one, it's going to be used for a large number of years from now, like maybe 10 years. The good thing is it's GNU/Linux, so it's never going to be out of date. Like, they could just keep updating it.
Well, that's the thing. If they're going to keep updating it, like, I'm sure at some point there's like, nah, it's already running a really out of date kernel anyway. So
yeah, it was like 3.2 or something. I think, or even older than that. Can't remember.
No, I think it was 4.1 something. I want to say 4.1.
I can check it out. Probably is. I mean,
4.1, 4.2.
I had it on the login screen.
It was definitely on the older end of LTS kernels, assuming it's an LTS kernel.
Yeah, I think it's a Wind River managed one. I don't know if I think Yocto Linux is involved. I don't even know what that is. It's like a project that does RTOSs or what? I can't remember what it was.
Yocto.
It's definitely on the older side. You're right, of OSs.
Yocto project at embedded. Yocto project is not an embedded Linux distribution. It creates a custom one for you. Oh god, I hate. Can we stop with stupid taglines? Just tell me what your project is about.
Like the funny thing on the GitHub, it says if you look down, it's got the FSF mailing address as well. It's so funny. And I brought that up at the talk, and Devin was in the crowd, and I was like, Devin shouted out, he's like, "That's our old mailing address." So they haven't even updated the mailing address.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, man.
You've been acting as this like middleman between like the SFC and John Deere. What has that been like?
So like SFC they want to investigate this, but they've got to get access to the device. They don't really have time, I guess, to do it. It's not free to like do what I do. And I do it for free because it's fun, theoretically. But to analyze the device and figure out, what licenses are involved and has the GPL been violated, and do they have to remove projects and put in free ones or non-free ones or whatever. It's pretty complicated, and I think John Deere is also asking me for comment sometimes. And so like both of them, it's like the arbitrator for the argument. So like the quasi jury for an argument that's kind of happening in public. It's kind of weird. But the way that I originally, I'm still learning about the GPL. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. But I think Rob Landley, who's a mad dog as well, Rob Landley, the dude who did BusyBox, and then they had the problem with the license for BusyBox. Or the guy didn't want to move to GPL. The original guy wanted to move to GPL 3, and Rob didn't want to go. So he made Toybox. He forked it and made Toybox, I think, on a different license. MIT, I think.
Yeah.
Or he made his own BSD0, I think, or something like that. And he moved it to, and now Android uses his project. BusyBox is still massive, right?
Yeah.
Rob has some really good talks on YouTube. I remember like a couple of years back, I watched those talks and I was like, holy heck, this dude's smart. And he's the dude who made Aboriginal Linux as well. He didn't make BusyBox, but he maintained it after the original.
Yeah, you mentioned that one when we were talking offline. I had no idea.
Landley.net is a mad dog. He's a mad dog, dude. He's a really smart guy. He's very active. And he's a really smart guy.
There's a lot of really...
Get him on the show, man. To get him on the show.
Oh, that would be awesome. There's a lot of people that I'd like to talk on the show. Absolutely.
Yeah. Richard, get Richard on there. You got to do it on Media Goblin, or it's going to be WebM or OGG. It's complicated. Yeah. He does, man. He was. I'm going to watch that talk after this, the one with the panel, because I remember he did interject. It was quite good. It was quite interesting. Yeah, it's real. It's a real deal.
So you, what was it like? Meeting Stallman. Like, you've mentioned some stuff offline, but you said he was a bit of a character, and it's very much like what you would expect Stallman to be. So,
like, we were at the front at the FSF. It was at the Boston Convention Center. I can't remember what it's called, but I was at the front having a cigarette, and I saw this guy walking up with Belly, with a guy, nice guy, right? Yeah, Belly, and he was with his, I think his girlfriend, I believe, or his partner, and walked up, and I'm like, holy, and he had a mask on. I was like, Richard? And he's like, hey, he's like, I know, it's really interesting. He's like, hey, how you going? Like, even though he's slower than that, he's more like, like he talks real slow, and he's like, really interesting guy. Obviously he's in his 70s or something now, right?
I believe he's 70 now.
Yeah, we got a couple of photos together. I was pretty smitten, dude. I was pretty starstruck.
70.
Like, been using the dude's software for 40. Everyone's been using his software for years and years and years. And literally, you're on your phone, the GPL's everywhere. Like, you go to the About section, licenses, GPL's literally everywhere. But I think in the other video the other day about the licensing thing, I'll go back to what he was saying, but he only has 40 employees, I think, at the FSF. And we were saying something about, like, he's like, we're not a big organization. We only got 40 employees. Well, you did all that with 40 employees, like all that damage, not damage, but like all that, no, not damage, it's probably the word for it, is like all that creation, right? In the software industry with like such a team, right? Red Hat's probably got like what, 70,000 or some crazy stuff.
I don't
completely different scenarios.
Red Hat employees. I know it's a ridiculous amount. They have 19,000 employees.
Oh, okay, yeah.
$1.6 billion. Oh, here we go. Their total assets in 2018, $5.5 billion.
They've got a lot of. I mean, they're on Kubernetes, I think, as well. They've got
number 27 on the Fortune 500 companies. Yeah, Red Hat's a little bit big.
So Richard immediately, I think one of the early things, like, he was kind of concerned that maybe the conference, because he was quite late to the conference. He came on day 2, and I was obviously busy the day before. Nice. It was cool to meet him. Like, regardless of what everyone does, it's cool to meet someone that writes a lot of software, has had a massive impact on life in any case. And then I met him, and I'm like, he's an interesting guy. And we went into the conference, and dude, he watched a couple of talks, asked a couple of questions. We took a couple of pics, and he's just been and everyone was pretty receptive. Like, everyone there is they're all hardcore free software advocates. Yeah. I also met Hot Wheels. What's his name again? Frederick Brennan. Frederick Brennan was there as well. He started 8chan.
Oh.
Well, yeah, the QAnon thing, and then he was not before that. He started it. Real nice guy as well. Real nice guy. Hot Wheels. Yeah, you probably understand who he is. Yeah, Mad Dog. He doesn't own it anymore as well. He sold it. No, they stole it off him. I don't know what happened there. Complicated situation back in the day, but he was also there, which is pretty cool. Cool to meet him as well. And then meeting him and Richard in one day is pretty interesting.
And anytime anyone mentioned open source, I'm actually.
Oh yeah, every time open source and Linux. I don't think he interjected with the GNU. Oh, no, I think he did. Yeah. But I think it's in that talk about the interjection, and it's the real deal. And I think some people get pissed off about it, but if you read his book, I think the Freeze and Freedom book 2.0. I've read about half of it so far, but yeah, the guy hasn't changed his mission in X amount of years. It's been static the whole time, and had that not been there, everyone knows that software would be a different ballgame right now. And there's a lot of push to like get away from GPL. People call it viral. It is viral, but people call it whatever they want. And I think there's people say it's on the way out, but then you look at who they work for, and it's like SUSE or something like that. It's like they're backed by like an MIT company or an Apache one or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to watch this whole play out.
I think it is accurate to say though that MIT, that side of it has definitely gotten a lot more momentum. Like GPL, it's still like, GPL v2, GPL v3, AGPL especially, or like these are all like really big licenses still, but they are absolutely dwarfed by the adoption of MIT and Apache and things like this.
Right. Yeah. The only difference is that if you look at like the in terms of maybe impact or like legacy software, things that have been there for a very, very long time. There's I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely know that I think most of my code, if I go to /bin on my computer, most of it's all GPL. Well, probably because we're using free software, right? Definitely in a non-free thing, there'd be a lot more of it. But I haven't used one for a while, so maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, definitely there's definitely a lot of MIT out there. And I think it's obviously growing, but I think we just need to not forget the GPL. I don't think it will be forgotten anyway, because a lot of people are proponents of free software, and it's going to live there forever. So,
well, I think free software is more like, this is one of the things you did mention the video the other day that I had. This is one of the free software is much more than just the FSF now. Like, it's the FSF was obviously an incredibly important component for founding this movement. And they exist now as this really extreme wing that shows you the conclusion of what free software can be, but there is this more moderate section that does interface with what you see with the moderate free software interfaces a lot better and interacts a lot better with the open source side. There's more of a dialogue there as opposed to, open source misses the point of free software and the other blogs and stuff like that Stallman's put out. And whether that's a good thing or not, that's up for debate. But there is certainly this growing growing discussion happening here about what software should be. I don't know what your take on whether that's a good thing or not is, or were you?
I can tell you, for example, I think so. You've probably seen talks of Richard before, where he goes if you have any cell phones, don't take any photos because you want to be part of the botnet or whatever. But he was fine with taking photos the other day. So there is obviously, he understands that people out there. Like, I had my iPhone, I took a photo with my iPhone. He had no issue. He did no issues with that. But the core, I think the core fundamentals part of it, I think he's definitely obviously solid on and never will. Immovable object, unstoppable force, which is the same thing, But yeah, the FSF, meeting him in person, they're really nice people, man. They don't appear like some of those blogs that are online. A lot of those old or legacy documentation, and not the documentation, but like FAQs back when things were a bit more militant or a bit more hostile or non. Back when things were a bit aggressive, there was a bit of an arms race for software licensing. I think maybe now that people are aware of both licenses, and the arms race maybe is a bit slower, or it's a bit more tame, that people actually understand that they do need free software for certain tasks, like missiles and bombs and things and tractors. But the other side of it is, there's a proprietary side of it, like, QNX, for example, QNX, BlackBerry's OS. So, he's definitely okay with, then he talks about specialist software, specialist programs and things like that. There's definitely a place for proprietary software. He's not definitely, the way I got it off him was, the way that I discussed it with him was, I think he mentioned that didn't have, there is specialized software out there that may be proprietary that is just necessary. And I think in the case of farming, people maybe thought that farming software was a basic necessary thing. However, turns out that it's a full-blown GNU/Linux OS. And just uncovering these little hot pockets, I guess, of like industries that are maybe not abusing, but like using profusely GPL stuff in a certain way that may or may not be against the license, but they're definitely using free software, and maybe just nobody knew about it before, things like that. And yeah, it's just a surprise. Yeah, he was really interesting, man. Really interesting guy. I didn't ask him about his past or anything, but it's interesting to see and see in the flesh, because he's telling me something now. So
you feel like there's a bit of a disconnect between the image of Stallman, the image of the FSF, and the way that he acts when you talk to him in person.
Yeah, he's obviously a very cordial human being, and he gave us a business card, and I was like, business card? No, it's my pleasure card, like business pleasure. He's a pleasure card. I've got it in my phone.
Pleasure card sounds like a very different kind of card.
Yeah. But he's a nice dude. I'm happy that I met him. Happy that I met the dude who created the GPL, and it's definitely. I think the image of him online's a bit different. Everyone kept asking me, "Did he eat stuff on his foot?" I'm like, no.
Everyone loves that video.
Yeah, people like bringing it up. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't see him eat his shoe, but he was wearing a mask the whole time, jacket up. Had his T400. Sent me an email shortly after as well, just about the talk and some notes that he had. It's nice taking notes. But he had genuine questions. I think the image may be a little bit skewed. I think people maybe a bit too militant on the free, like the Software Foundation's only got like 40 employees, I think, or something. And the GNU project, I don't know what's going on, how big that one is, but they're pretty close to each other. And I think apparently they shared an office before. But yeah, they both have a certain task. I think the image might be a little bit skewed by people who maybe they've had something. I don't know. You can't really just figure out what the motivations are. People to like, why was it like the other day I saw your FSF one. We were talking about it previously, but I mean, I saw that post that you were referencing, and I'm like, someone just decided one day to come up with that. Was it for a reason, or maybe they had like an issue with GPL? Maybe someone at the workplace is like, we're not using it. This sort of, like, what is the motivation behind some of these things? And I know definitely sometimes it's other companies. Like, I remember with the original stuff, I won't get into it, but I believe there's a lot of like, you go to the GitHub profile and you see who it is, and it's like, works at Red Hat, works at bloody here, works at here.
In Drew DeVault's case, he is very supportive of free software, but he also has a lot of problems with the way the FSF is run nowadays. Like he used to be the maintainer of the Sway window manager and a bunch of other projects. What's his main one? There's a Git repo. Give me 1 sec. There's a Git remote software. Drew DeVault.
So the FSF is pretty quiet. They're pretty quiet. They don't really talk much online.
What is this project? Why am I blanking on it?
What does it do again?
It's a Git remote, one of like the web host ones.
Git-T. Git-T?
Is that it? No.
GitLab?
No, it's not GitLab. It's one of the smaller ones. I'm complete blank on it. I'm gonna remember it later. And
not Git-T, right?
No. SourceHeart. SourceHeart. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Not SourceForge. SourceHeart. How did you say?
SourceHeart.
Oh, SourceHeart. Yeah, I've been there for a while.
So he's like a big supporter of free software, but he's one of the people that, as I said, there's this like, there's a support of free software that exists nowadays that is entirely separate from what the FSF has. And I think a part of that is because of how abrasive and how militant the FSF has been throughout the history. So now there is this, you have this younger generation coming up that is interested in free software, but they feel like there is a more cooperative approach, a less like aggressive way to push for it. And whether that's a good thing or not, as I said before, like whether that's a good thing or not is another question. But there's definitely this, I guess, split in free software about what direction it should be going into the future. And it seems like there is more, like I could tell from my comments on that video that there was a lot of people that seem to be in support of that less militant side, and we'll have to see what happens over the coming years, whether that's a good direction for this movement to be going, because that seems like it is the direction it's going to be going now.
I think it might be, if you think about it, maybe is it a tonal issue? If it's because for me, right, if I write code, GPL, I use it. I try to separate the humanness of it's the code versus the actual personability of someone or the industry or the thing. But for me, I don't see it in that way. But I think a lot of people can see that they're maybe they've heard on the grapevine, maybe someone said to them, maybe they watched a video, or maybe they've just read it in a way that it speaks out to them and says this is a communism software type model, and it definitely obviously has elements of things like that. But yeah, that's just the way. I think that's just the way it is, or I don't know if you can do it any other way. If you think about it, maybe there isn't a way to do GPL3 without having it say you can't use this and blah blah blah. I think it's worded in a way that maybe ChatGPT can rewrite it in a nicer format. I'm not sure, but I do know that a GPL and GPL3, they're significant licenses. There's nothing out there like them. I don't know if the leadership has to change, but I do know that it's a small organization, and
it's not even really if it needs to change. A lot of people like Stallman are going to be leaving. He's 70. In the coming years, he's going to be leaving, whether he likes it or not.
But there's definitely people there that I met, which were very, there was a lot of people that I met at the FSF at the conference that were very, very nice people, very personable. Everyone's in the same mission though. It's regardless of the personality of an individual. I think that they all have the same mission, and that is to protect, as far as I know, protect software and keep it free and freedom with the 4 freedoms.
Yep. I think that's the important part. Even with this disagreement, everyone, even if they disagree with the FSF, we're all still trying to go towards free software. It's just a matter of the different approaches that are being taken here.
And I think if you think about some industries, when they stick around for a while, grifters come in, and I do believe I've seen, not that's a bad way to put it, but you see something happening, and then eventually people start selling T-shirts about it or something, and then it just ends up in they start taking donations for something, and it turns into a friggin' a cash thing. But I think for some, not necessarily projects, but then some people they built their software GPL3, they want to go private, like OpenAI, for example.
Right?
In the name, OpenAI. They're like, oh shit, we're killing it. Let's go private.
I know Elon had a lot of issues with OpenAI because he invested a lot of money into it early on with the assumption it was going to be, remaining open.
Correct.
But now, Microsoft came in and gave them some money, and now Microsoft basically I want to say they own 49% of the company or something, and all of their IP, or
something like that.
Yeah.
But if you think about that, that business model, right? If you're working at a company and you're and you got PR, you got sway, and you're okay, well, this is the wrong license. We can't use this, but we want it. Let's trash GPL for a bit and see what happens. I think that's what some of it does come around like that. And I know other projects definitely do it. Definitely talk about that. I think Linus and Richard have a massive dispute over GPL3. They both think each other was insane. I don't know about that way, but from that video, I watched that video where they had that thing when they're on stage together, and they're can you slash? That's a good video. They're on stage. It's a complex thing, man. I mean, I'm not the expert. Yeah, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. You just froze for a second.
Yeah. That's all right. Yeah, I just said I'm not an expert on GPL. I'm still studying. I think I'm going to finish that book that he wrote, Freeze and Freedom, because it does have a lot of, there's a footnote by RMS. It says just the presence of free software on a non-free system doesn't make the whole system non-free, right? Because then you can say that with Deere, right? Deere's got packages on there that are proprietary. They don't have to be publicly released. However, John Deere put in their agreement or their manual that you can get the full corresponding source code, and that's defined in the GPL as the everything that you can imagine to make the thing, including keys, secrets, make scripts, make files, shell scripts, etc. Build tools, tool chains, whatever, to build it. And that's a big statement. And I didn't get that file from them. I think that's where the dispute comes from. It's they offer that, which is like literally everything to make a tractor on my own. I can literally make a VM and just run. I've got it running on Raspberry Pi, by the way, low key, but also high key, right? And then like they offered that, and then just didn't go through the offer properly. They just sort of fuzzed it around a bit.
There's been some I forgot what the company was. There was this big company in China that did the same thing, and someone just showed up at their office like, "Hey, I'm here for the source code. Give me the source code."
Yeah, that was
it was
her name. It's
Sexy
Real
Cyborg.
Sexy Cyborg.
Yeah,
Sexy Cyborg. Yeah. She, I believe she showed up as well asking for source code, and I do believe that they had no idea what they were doing, as far as I know.
I'm sure John Deere would like you to show up like that, because then they'd be.
No, I think Willie, the other guy, he actually showed up. But they also had no idea, but that's another story. I think he did show up. I think he did show up. He said he did, but I don't know if he did. But yeah, I think John Deere is well aware of this argument about the GPL. Like I've spoken to him about it. Asking him like, is there tools out there that will go and find what's linked, what's whatever, and what's public and what's not? But I just go back to the original argument. They fully offer the full, like actually on the device. You go to the settings, you go to manuals, and you go to support or help, and scroll down. It says you can obtain the corresponding source code for the device you're typing on.
Yeah.
And if they're not supplying the full corresponding with that, I don't know if that's wrong or not. That's just like a EULA, like it's like a nothing agreement. But it made me think that they know that there's code in there that should be public or not. But I'm not 100% sure. And that's kind of where the dispute starts from. And that's kind of why I'm the arbitrator, which is really weird.
Yeah, you're just the guy who managed to find the code. You're not the lawyer here that's sorting all this stuff out.
Exactly. And John Deere's got one or two lawyers, I think.
I'm sure.
They're not. They're not
a small indie company.
They're a startup.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're a startup. Yeah.
So that's why they need to have monthly subscription. Oh, is it monthly, yearly? What is the subscription model?
Honestly, I think they have yearly subscriptions.
That makes sense.
And then yearly, or there's optionals. There's like 1, 2, or 3 yearly.
Yeah.
But I believe Green Star 5 is 5 years. Green Star 5. It's coming out soon, and there's a YouTube video about it. I believe it's just coming out soon, but there's no information on it. Green Star 5. I just typed the wrong word. It's no information on it yet, but it's definitely coming out. And it's a newer version. It's like a touch display, but it's also apparently it's I think it's like a non-outdoor display. The other one can go out in the rain.
Yeah, well, you had that picture of it, just the fancy picture.
Yeah, with the rain
going down it. Yeah,
that's on their official site. It's a good photo actually, because it is IP65. Like it's weatherproof, apparently. But it definitely. Mine's not, because I've chiseled it around and screwed with it, and it's definitely not weatherproof anymore because I got rid of the glue.
Not those exposed wires you had on it. Definitely not.
Oh yeah, that's just taped on the back so that it doesn't fall out. And 12 volts ground, and then I've got RS-232, so I can shell into it. So I have to change the password first as well. But I think there's a new one coming out called Green Star 5, and I believe it to be the same OS. So it's already jailbroken. So. And they're like, maybe they removed, maybe it's encrypted. It would be funny to see that, but they can't also go out and here we go, G5. Here we go. I'll send you the link.
Okay, sweet.
It's a PDF. Guidance G5. The new one's coming out. So if you look up G5 universal display. So it's a larger screen, faster processor, brighter, 1080p. But actually, it's just a better screen, right?
Oh, here we go.
GS, you can see G5, yeah? G5 universal display.
G5, yep, I think so, if their website's going to load. Here we go. Okay, we're good.
RS-232 to document and use subscription. That's interesting, man.
Large
that means it's exactly what. It's got a shell.
This is cool. Looks like it's
just a bigger screen, right? It's a bigger screen. It's quite nice. It's got remote everything again. It looks exactly like the existing one. It's just a nicer screen, bigger screen. Yeah.
Bright, clear, a 1080p resolution. Wow. We've entered 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny, right? It's definitely.
If it works, it works. Like, you don't need something crazy for it.
Yeah, it looks exactly like the current one. And if I right click and you screenshot and the thing, it says they literally use the Gen 4 photos. So yeah, just open up the image in a new tab and it's like sales manual for Gen 4. So they're using the photos from the Gen 4 for 5. So it's definitely obviously
wait, really?
It's like go down the bottom, like it's like a yellow top, and then just right click, open the image in new tab. This is Gen 4. So Gen 4 is the one that I had, and Gen 5 is the one coming out. Yeah, well, G5 they're calling it G5. Yeah, so it's definitely yeah. But it does look like they've got serial GPS, and I don't know if that's the current one. Probably is, but there's definitely the accessibility of. It's very similar to the previous one, so it's probably already jailbroken.
Assuming they don't, you know, one of the devices you mentioned where they had like the what do you call it?
Oh, fireproof crap on it.
Yeah, and just tore the board apart.
Yeah, so they had like a chip sitting on the board on the gateway, and it's like covered in this yellow fire retardant, I think, or like it's obviously heat something or other. It's heat sink or it's some sort of glue, and they shoved it everywhere inside, and it goes on the chips, and it expands heat, whatever. Sorry, transfers heat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them's on the chip that has the eMMC, which is a 153 ball flash chip, which has the memory of the entire OS on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stuck on one of those things. And I don't know if they did this on purpose, but when you take it apart, which is pretty hard to do because I cut myself multiple times doing it, you like cut around and open it up, it rips off the chip on the board and literally just permanently ruins the board because the chip flies off. And they did it in a way that some of the traces on the chip are like, I don't know if it's like what the word would be, like a tamper evidence seal. Where you like rip it off and it like, because it rips off in a certain way, the sticker's all screwed up. I think they honestly might have done that with that chip because it's happened on my device, 2 of mine, and I think another guy who's a Mad Dog, LP, nice guy. He actually works for it anyway, but he also had the same issue where it would rip off the chip off the board. Yeah, the chip was fine though. I still was able to dump the firmware off the chip and modify that, but I couldn't put it back on because the rest of the board was pretty much toast. So.
Right.
I believe so. Actually, you know what? I actually went down with a microscope and rearranged some of the traces. I fixed it up. Yeah, I think so. I've got 2 of them now, so yeah, I've got more than one. It's been a while, so I haven't looked at one for about a year, but I've got more than one of them anyway. So one of them doesn't work. Yeah. Shredded.
Well, one last thing I wanted to just bring up is with all of this stuff that John Deere has, like with their own sort of software, one thing you brought up in Libre Planet, the was it DEF CON, was Ag Open GPS. Which
dude. Cool project.
It does look pretty cool.
I told Richard about it. He went off about the name. He's like, because it's got open in it.
Yeah.
And he's like, the name's not good enough. I'm like, well, Richard, you'll have to convince him to change it. But it's GPL3. It is fully open, and you can download it and run the demo. I think I used Wine to run it, but it definitely opened a little demo up. And it was like running like a fake little truck. But there's a Telegram group. There's a Telegram group with legitimate guys that use it all day, every day. So there's guys actually legitimately out there farming it, and it's free. So think about those prices. We were talking about $8,000 here and $7,000 here for a display, free on this one. And people are using, I think they're using laptops in the tractor, or they're using like third party like tablets or something. They've got a couple of supported devices, but they're definitely on the path of doing a fully free tractor guidance system.
To anyone who wants to go and have a look at this, shout out to Farmer Brian T on YouTube. He's got this big playlist showing like him actually using it in his devices.
On the Telegram group too, they have a lot of guys that post photos of them in the tractor and stuff all day. Like they've got PCB designs that they've made, so that like you can go and download them and submit them to PCBWay and get them printed. And they've got like, it's pretty substantial, man. Like it just randomly, there's a lot of tinkerers in farming and inventors and things like that. And this is a pretty cool project. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's competitive. There's a few features that they're probably missing, and it's competitive against major existing software. Which brings into question: is this software that they sell at the other places worth $8,000? Obviously, yeah. So it's situational.
There is value in convenience. But
Richard will say something different, but he'd be like, like, no, it's like you have to pay for your free. Like it's a different situation. But there's a two-sided argument there, right? If you think about it, you pay like if you go to the manual for the John Deere, I think I put it in my talk where it says like, enjoy the comfort of a dealer logging into your tractor remotely from an office in John Deere headquarters. I'm like, I personally wouldn't prefer that, but some people want the customer they want to put their hands behind their bed, like, oh, the guy's he's rocking in. Look, honey, he's on the screen. Look, his mouse is moving around. when you're on your AnyDesk or something into someone's computer, and like, oh, there's my mouse. And you're like a relative's thing, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. They get this weird sense of, you ask them about it, and they love it, apparently. They love when someone takes over the computer. Very interesting situation.
Yeah, I can see why some people get scammed then.
Yeah. Like, as the technician part of it, it's like definitely something to be scared about. But, the fact that we had access to the mainframe, and I was able to log into the system and do some certain things, that if we had gone further enough, there would definitely be the ability to access people's farms remotely. And that's where the scary part comes in. Is, somebody was to do a sophisticated ransomware attack, even inside a job, they would have a substantial amount of ability to disrupt farming. And if you think about some of the ransomwares going around now with stuff where they steal the data, or they'll do like, I think not Latitude, but there's one recently with not Pepsi. It was like, not Pepsi, it was something else. It was like one really recently. It's a very, very big company. And they were like, Cisco or something. No, it's not Cisco. I don't want to get in trouble, but not that I would. But it's one of the companies out there recently that's being like, not answering questions or something, not talking to them or whatever, and they're going to post it. And I think if somebody that would Deere, maybe it wouldn't be problematic, but if they threatened to destroy tractors remotely of some sort of, like, if they built some sort of like kill switch and said like, I'm gonna drop the bomb, like that would be bizarre. That would probably get paid for that. Crazy stuff out there, man. Oh, it's quite dangerous, this other stuff. Yeah, if you get rid of a lot of, like, the ransomware where they got rid of the encryption stuff, and now they're doing we're threatening to release your data instead. They don't even care about encrypting it. The next one's going to be like, I'm gonna destroy things, which is like terrorism, like literal terrorism.
Yeah, well,
cyber terrorists.
Let's hope that people don't do that.
And what about AI? Cyber terrorism.
AI cyber terrorism.
Set the goal. Set the goal. Go and destroy this company, and just goes off and does it. Disastrous results. Cyber AI terrorism.
Let's look.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see it pan out.
Certainly, give me some stuff to talk about.
Yeah. AI cyber terrorism. Anyway, man, is that right? Yeah, finishing on that gloomy.
Yeah, sure. Let's finish on that. Well, yeah, this was. I'm sure we could I'm sure there's tons of stuff we could keep talking about, but yeah, I'll let you go.
Just chuck the links in the.
Yeah, let people know where they can find you. I've got your website.
Yeah, I've got Twitter, here. Mastodon. I think is sick@sick.social. Got my little server. It's kind of boring on your own server, but you slowly get followers and slowly get interactions. But
yeah.
There's a couple of servers that I should have access. I should have accounts on, but they haven't got. They've screwed it up with like the following ability. Like, you're not supposed to be able to follow. Like, it should be like you just bang. I want to go to my friends' ones that I know and be like, oh, I know all these people. I want to recognize them all and just follow them from the ones that I know, and just sort of expand. But they've got something where you can't cross server stuff. But hopefully they fix that. On Twitter, Sick Codes on Twitter, LinkedIn as well. A lot of stuff on LinkedIn. Sick Codes on LinkedIn. Yeah, and then got a YouTube channel, but I've got like 2 videos on there. And I think my site says sick.codes. I've got a tutorial on there about running, because I've got Docker OS X. I got the project about running macOS VMs in Docker. It's a big project, like 30K stars. It's pretty funny. And I got another one. And then I did Ableton. I do a lot of wine stuff. Like, I got Ableton work the other day. It was pretty good. Ableton latest on Linux.
Wait, I think I saw this. I think I saw this macOS Docker thing ages ago. I think someone just sent me a link to it. I didn't realize that was your thing.
So funny, because people see me from that. They're like, aren't you the dude who does Docker? And then like the other way around. It's so funny. I'm like, yeah, dude, what's going on? So jack of all trades. No, multitasking. But yeah, dude, like those things. And I've also got, I'm using a lot of Twitter and Discord as well. I've got Discord as well. But I'm in your Discord channel as well. So.
Well, I will leave everything linked in the description, so if you want to go check that out, they absolutely can. Do you have anything you are able to say that you're working on right now, or is there nothing crazy going on besides the Dodge Ram thing you were saying about before?
Yeah, I got a Dodge Ram. I think I'm working on. I've got some airplane Wi-Fi stuff I was looking at. I think it's old, but you never know because airplane stuff always looks old, but sometimes it's not. They use the really light materials. I'm working on. What else have I got? I've got a voting machine at the back. You can probably see it in the back corner. That's a US voting machine. Potts County or something. And I've got.
Why do you have? No, sorry. Where did you get a US voting machine?
What do you think? eBay.
They're just on eBay. Okay, sure.
Dude, it's massive. It's like this big, right? It's just come in the mail. I'm like, what is that? And it was like, it just rocked up one day in the mail, and it says like it's really weird. I wanted to get a Dominion machine, but I remember seeing them on eBay, and then I should have bought one at the time. It would have been funny to look at. So that was a bit of a hot topic at the time. I probably want to get regardless of whether it's true or not. I love going in there and have a look for myself. So maybe with Deere, like I'll go and look at it and be like, can I run doom on this? Or what are they actually doing in there? And then regardless of whether or not they're doing something wrong, it's always cool to see from the inside yourself, and then publish some research about it and be like, oh, have a look at this. It's kind of sus, guys. It's kind of weird what's going on here, or there's nothing to see here, that sort of thing. But yeah, I've been working on that. Just been working on, a couple of Arduino stuff, CAN bus stuff, just random stuff. Oh, the Sound Blaster card eventually.
Yeah. You got a lot of things going on, it seems.
Yeah. Oh, I actually do a lot of hardware hacking stuff as well. Yeah, like I'm offering trainings now too. I've got training stuff as well. So like mostly B2B. Some people, I did a lot of talks recently, but just a lot of random tasks, man. Penetration tests.
Yeah, go check out the talk that he did over on LibrePlanet. That should be in the description as well, probably.
Yeah, because it's like Framatube or something. It's like and the Media Goblin as well, but it's on the FSF website, LibrePlanet.org or something. But
because being there, no one's gonna see it unless they know about the link.
Yeah, the email when we signed, like when I accepted it, it's like the rules were like it has to be like OGG format or like WebM. Like it was kind of funny. But yeah, I did it in the right format. So
was that all you want to mention then?
Yeah, that's fine, man. That's fine. I mean, that's yeah.
Okay. As for me, the main channel, Brody Robertson, do videos there 6 days a week, mainly Linux tech videos. Then we've got the gaming channel, Brody on Games, currently playing through Hogwarts Legacy and Yakuza 0. Both very good games. Come check them out. FF16 is coming out soon, so that'll be fun to play. God, we're going to be playing a lot of Final Fantasy 16. Anyway, also, if you're listening to the audio version of this, the video version is available on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. If you are watching the video version, you can find the audio version anywhere that there's podcasts. There's an RSS feed, chuck it in your favorite app, and should be good to go. I'll give you the final word. What do you want to say?
Yeah, man, just keep fighting the good fight. Everyone's out there doing their mission. Just keep it up. Just especially with the times, currentyear.com. Just keep moving on, everyone. Keep doing the good stuff.
Yeah, man, you keep up the good work as well. Hopefully you got something fun that grabs people's attention again.
Oh, yeah. Slot machines, I forgot. But we'll talk about that another day.
Sure. Why not? Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Okay, that's going to be it for me, and I'm out.
Cool.